Okay, we can start once you're ready.
Dear John and fellow debaters, in order to maintain a citizen's basic living environment, the Taiwanese government has dedicated itself to promote welfare for decades. There's plenty of welfare. Some are established for all citizens, such as the universal health insurance in 1994. Others are established for citizens with specific status, such as the low-income and middle-low-income household disabled in 1980, the Disabled Benefit Act in 1990. As we can see, the government has put a lot of effort on welfare policy. However, the results aren't as optimistic as we thought. But vulnerable population still exists. The Social Assistance Act is the law that is most out of line with social reality, and there are lots of people who can't get a subsidy due to the restriction of education. Also, according to the author of the book, Creating Low-Income Household, Hong Guo-Xun, mentioned that the reason for Taiwan's 1.3% poverty rate is that the government has quietly hidden the 14% of the poor population through a special low-income household machining to lower the poverty line, and so the poverty rate in Taiwan seems quite low. Therefore, that's the reason why the government should enact unconditional basic income. According to the Oxford language, unconditional basic income, the UBI, means that the act of financial support provided by a government in the form of standard, recurring payments to individuals without the need for means testing. With the implementation of UBI, we can successfully solve society's problems. First, UBI has no status limit, so the government doesn't need to take the time to review everyone's family's situation and can skip the complicated steps and restriction of education. They can ensure that every one of the citizens get the money. Even the poor who are excluded from the system can get the money. Second, many employees are exploited by their employers. However, because they need work and money to survive, they cannot inclusively fight against their employers. If there is UBI, those employees will have the abilities to strive for their own advantage and improve the current working environment. Furthermore, according to a report from the Ministry of Health and Welfare, started in 2022, additional living allowance will be paid to low-income household and middle and low-income household. 750 new Taiwan dollars per person per month for low-income household, and 500 new Taiwan dollars per month for low and middle-income household by the government. From this report, we can see that current policy is not good enough. The money for subsidies is insufficient. Therefore, we insist that the implementation of UBI is necessary. Our plan is to provide 6,000 new Taiwan dollars per month per person aged 10 to 18, and 12,000 new Taiwan dollars per month per person for people over 18 years old. It is estimated that the government needs about 3.24 trillion per year. This money mainly comes from the adjustment of the old tax system. We also partially integrate women's welfare and family support, and fully integrate some social welfare systems which are similar to UBI, such as living assistance, emergency assistance, and living allowance for low and middle income elderly. While adjusting the tax policies, it can also simplify the complete social welfare system and save administrative costs. Due to the reason above, we the affirmative strongly insist that the Taiwanese government should enact unconditional basic income. Thank you.
Good morning, respected judges and fellow debaters. We strongly negate the resolution. We live in a materialistic reality. Therefore, making such an ideal policy like UBI is impractical. Giving money without means test seems equal and efficient at first sight, but we will prove the opposite is true. People who live in poverty need more than just money. UBI has many flaws. Not only is it extremely expensive, the substantial change in the tax rates and its efficiency is also a big concern. Please note that we are not denying the potential benefits that UBI could bring. We just state its cons and outweighs the pros. Contention 1, there are two main issues of operating UBI, which makes it impractical and hard to sustain. Issue number 1 is too expensive. The costs outweigh the benefits. A paper by economist John K. from the University of Oxford studied UBI levels in many countries such as Finland, Switzerland, and the US, and concluded that enacting UBI at a level which can guarantee an acceptable standard of living is impossibly expensive. The cost of a sufficient UBI scheme would be extremely high according to the International Labour Office, which estimates average cost equivalence to 20 to 30% of GDP in most countries. So how much would a UBI actually cost? According to the proposal by UBI Taiwan, each Taiwanese individual will receive between 10,000 and 60,000 per month. If we use the statistics from Taiwan's National Department of Household Affairs, there was an estimate of 23.3 million people as of January. If we multiply this number by 13,000, which is the median of the UBI monthly paycheck, a monthly UBI costs 300 billion NTD and 3 trillion a year. In contrast, welfare programs are more helpful, and according to the Executive Yuan's General Office, only cost 1,600 billion NTD as of last year. Issue number 2, the system of UBI is actually unequal, causing waste of resources. First of all, universal basic income would be just that, universal. That means that everyone, regardless of how poor or rich, would get the same amount of money. Even millionaires receive monthly payment that they don't need. If the Taiwanese government took all the money it spends on aid and welfare programs now and divided it among the entire population, the poor would receive much less aid than they do now. Therefore, UBI isn't the most efficient way to help people in need. Second, a work and economic market system is made up of not just employees but also employers. UBI pressures and is unfair to employers in 2 ways. One, it could discourage employees from working, leading to insufficient labor personnel. 2, as employers usually earn high incomes, they face a higher progressive taxation. This punishes the upper and middle class unfairly. There is no evidence that adding more surtax to the wealthy will increase economic growth. It may even harm growth because it discourages saving and investments, especially since Taiwan's center of economic strength has already shifted from small and medium-sized enterprises to big business groups such as TSMC. These factors ultimately lead to the collapse of the economy. Third, there is too much uncertainty regarding how much UBI reduces income inequality in the real world. Most UBI experiments have been too small and short-lived to affect this large-scale problem. Only a few countries have adopted any form of UBI on a large scale, and the evidence from these countries is mixed. This means that UBI is a poorly targeted policy and makes the policy an efficient use of financial resources. Contention 2, UBI doesn't address the root causes of poverty and could even deteriorate the current situation. First of all, UBI would create a new class of people dependent on the government for their livelihood. Economists also indicate that the government should focus on creating jobs and raising wages, and that work is more reliable and sustainable way out of poverty than unconditional government assistance. The premise of a universal basic income has a known track record of failure that hurts recipients and increases dependence on government, based on tax experiments and on the closely related negative income tax policy. Second, UBI removes the incentive to work, adversely affecting the economy and leading to a labor and skills shortage. Economist Alison Sugar says that a strong economy relies on people being motivated to work. In order to motivate people, there needs to be an element of uncertainty for the future. UBI, providing guaranteed security, which is not always a good thing, removes this uncertainty. In 2016, the Swiss government opposed implementation of UBI, stating that it would entice fewer people to work and thus exacerbate the current labor shortages. This is an especially critical problem in Taiwan. This leads to a shrinking labor force. By definition, a smaller labor force will mean lower economic output and lower tax revenues to invest in the future. Ultimately, UBI's trade-offs harm.
Time's up.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Perhaps 30 seconds per time. more than. Wait, what? Can you repeat your question?
Can only give people money.
Well, in the policy that this policy shows that UBI will give money to people. That's correct, isn't it?
Okay, then.
Alright, so are you saying that if we're implementing UBI, then we need to cancel the welfare system?
No, we didn't. We only said that we have to change part of the.
Then how can the financial be balanced between UBI and welfare system?
We will increase the tax rate right now, and if the tax is not enough, we will go national debt.
Okay, so what's the disadvantages of national debt and increase the tax? What's the disadvantage if we increase the tax or we use national debt?
We didn't say that.
We're asking that. So what about the potential risk? Have you ever considered about the potential risk that implementing UBI will happen? Yeah, so we're asking about the potential risk. This policy is disadvantage. Alright, you mentioned that. You mentioned that.
So we don't have to answer the question.
But alright, so you mentioned that you need to use tax and buying national debts
Yes.
to implementing UBI.
Yes.
But
If the money is not enough for the rate, we have to go national debt.
so is it useful for this country? Do you have any successful examples?
We haven't implemented the UBI right now, so I cannot answer this question.
Yeah, so alright, so UBI is a unpredictable thing, and
Yes.
this we already proved that its disadvantage is bigger than this advantage. Of course, it has the benefits, but the benefit outweigh the cons is outweigh the pros. So we're saying that
But
UBI
now
is
the
not useful.
current system is not good enough, so we have to go UBI.
How's the definition of not good?
There will always be people who cannot get
Also,
money.
so can you prove that if we're implementing UBI, then all the people can have this advantage?
It will probably be better than we don't change the policy.
How
right
to
now.
prove that? Do you have evidence for
We
if
have
we're
evidence right
implementing?
now the policy is not good enough, so we think we have to do UBI.
But if the policy no,
Can I
listen.
ask you a question?
Thanks.
Did you say that the policy system now is better?
Yes.
Did you say that?
Yes, we mentioned that the policy right now can be sustained in Taiwan.
So you think it's
Economics.
always better than UBI?
We're not saying it's always better. We're saying that after we compare to UBI and welfare system, we're saying that welfare system is much better than UBI because of this low cost, and it has the means test to test about who can have these subsidies.
Bill, thank you. Prepare 30 minutes. 30 seconds. Can we have another 30 seconds?
Okay.
Sorry. Please. Oh.
Dear judges and fellow debaters, when the affirmative company insists that the Taiwanese government should enact an unconditional basic income as the second affirmative speaker, let me first start by responding to the narrative. Deputy Jack mentioned that the implement UBI will be too expensive. However, we can use the tax and national debate to UBI be implemented. Also, they mentioned that it can give poor people and also rich people. However, rich people won't care about this little money, and also they need to pay more tax than before. So this doesn't really benefit for them. And the second, they mentioned that that their intention of work be less. However, it doesn't affect people who want to pursue the higher wage. So that's if the people they want to pursue the higher wage, they still will want to go to work. Also, they take the Finland as proof, but Finland is at least more evidentiary than other countries that have never tried. So that we think Finland have told that they can get people more happiness. This is a good thing. And after responding to the negative, I'm going to get back to our contention. First of all, according to our first affirmative statement, we can know that Taiwan has actually provided a lot of social welfare subsidies. However, this is not enough. There are still many vulnerable groups. In the past, the meaning of most social welfare was indeed to help people get through temporary difficulties, expecting that they can improve their lives by themselves in the future. But because these subsidies have basic thresholds and qualifications, not all people can get it. The biggest difference between UBI and this social welfare, such as subsidies for low and middle income households and unemployment benefits, is that it is unconditionally granted. No eligibility checks are required. This means that everyone can be protected. What's more, unconditional basic income gives out more money than the subsidy for low and middle income households. Moreover, now the government has to pay additional money every month in the subsidy for low and middle income households, which means that the current situation may not be enough. Since UBI can make people get better, we should implement it. In addition, there are still many blood and sweat labor victims in today's Taiwanese society. In 2019, the total annual working hours of Taiwanese workers is 28 hours, ranking first compared with another major country. The phenomenon of overtime works have become more and more common. According to the Reuters Worker House Workload Survey, even found that nearly 30% of respondents work more than 62 hours a week. It is 20 hours more than the government statutory working hours, and more people are dying from overwork. Therefore, by implementing unconditional basic income, we can effectively help workers and improve the poor benefit business environment and labor exploitation issue in Taiwan. UBI enables people to live without having to work, and eliminates the need for workers to work in harsh or even illegal conditions in order to make ends meet. It can force companies to improve working conditions and relate wages in order to recruit labor. Because of the reason above, we, the affirmative, strongly insist that the Taiwanese government should enact unconditional basic income. Thank you.
Start my speak. Okay, honorable judges and fellow debaters. UBI is too expensive. Economist John Kay studied UBI levels in Finland, France, Germany, Switzerland, the United Kingdom, and the United States. They all concluded that in all of these countries, UBI at a level which can guarantee an acceptable standard of living is impossibly expensive. And the level of basic income is unacceptably low, and all the cost of providing it is really high. Taiwan is no exception. The cost of the sufficient UBI scheme will be exactly high according to the International Labour Office, which estimates average cost equivalent to 20 to 30% of the GDP in most countries. Costs can be reduced and have been in most trials by paying similar amounts to poorer individuals, but there is no evidence to suggest that a partial or conditional duty regime should do anything to mitigate the worsening of poverty. If the Taiwan's government took all the money it spent on the aid program and now divided among the entire population, the poor will receive much less aid than they do now. According to the Executive Yuan General Office, last year's social welfare budget was 600 billion NTD. The money was targeted at mainly children and the poor people and then gradually expand onto other social and economically disadvantaged population, including the disabled, elderly, orphan and disadvantaged women and families. A UBI program would inevitably take away funds from AIDS program and welfares. They will make poverty and inequality worse, not better. Studied by the Center of Budget and Policy Projects, the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development, the Institute for Policy Research all support this statement. Second, the UBI is an equal standpoint type of equality known as formal equality. It's not true equality, but known as substantive equality. An example of UBI unfairness is RENT. Depending on where you live, the rent is different, higher the city and lower the rural areas. It's not equal because if you give people from two areas the same money, one possibility will pay rent. Second, a third work and economic marketing system is made out of not just employees but also employers. UBI pursue and is unfair to employers in three ways. One, it could discourage the employees from working, leading to insufficient labor potentials. Two, as employers usually earn higher incomes, this face a higher progressive taxation that offers the system the means of income redistribution, which they believe punished in the wealthy upper class. And unclear how much UBI reduces income inequality in the real world. Most UBI experiment has been too small. Like Brazil's UBI, most aiding welfares, the Iran's basic income program hasn't had much impact on inequality. Paper by Jerry Wellman, no decrease in income skills. UBI could actually increase inequality. Accelerate the wealth gain. Impact is huge, and income inequality decrease lifespans and access to education. Why would income inequality cause decrease in health and education? According to the Department of Health and Human Service, rich were living 4.5 years longer. According to the Russell State Foundation, the number of the rich people going to college jumped by 20 percentage points. For poor people, it rose only 3 percentage points. Proposition of UBI increased dependence on governments based on tax experiment done by SIR International on the closer rate negative income tax policy. Okay, and why and how can you sure that?
Okay, let's start again.
Okay, you have questions?
Do you think Taiwan's current social welfare is good enough?
Sorry, can you repeat your question again?
Do you think Taiwan's current social welfare is good enough?
Yes, it is good enough.
Then do you agree with the current situation that there are poor people outside the system?
Well, there's poor people outside the system, but most of the poor people can get the welfare system from the money above it, and the money they get from the welfare system is more larger than the UBI.
Do you have any questions?
Yes, and how can you sure that the employees overwork or something like that is not due to their issues and their personal issues or their abilities? It's all because the employers.
Some may because of their issue, but a lot of people is because
Okay,
of
and can you give the percentage of the number of the people?
we towards the social justice.
We didn't mention it in our speech. Sorry. And can you sure UBI will keep its value forever?
Sorry, can you repeat?
Can you sure UBI will keep its value forever? Because Taiwan is now facing an inflation.
But inflation is the thing that is have in our current situation.
Yes, but how about it getting more and more serious? And how can you solve it
We
with
think
UBI?
this won't be a question. Won't be an issue.
But we will not save it right now.
Okay. Do you have any other
And you have
This is Do you have any other questions?
okay, and you're saying you're going to cancel the welfare system right now, right? Cancel the ongoing welfare system if you enact the UBI, right?
We will make some adjustment, but not every.
Okay, and what adjustment are you going to do? So,
I need 1 minute.
Okay.
Thank you. Dear judges and fellow debaters, as the formative side, now I'm going to summarize for today's debate. Now for negative, they mentioned that they don't understand why do we have to give the richer money. But first, we respond with that the richer people won't really care about that much money. Furthermore, it won't really influence them. The richer have to pay for the tax to the government, so we think that if we give the richer money as well, it is social justice. And second, time is money, so if we can decrease the time for administrative application, then it is better to waste time for checking if they can get the money. And second, the negative also mentioned that the UBI might decrease people's willingness to work. However, the report from Finland's research shows that people's willingness in work won't really change. And furthermore, the UBI can also increase their happiness in their mental, which is more important. Third, the negative also mentioned that the UBI will waste a lot of money and will create the poverty. However, now for the current policy, the government has also chosen to increase the amount of money to the low income and middle low income, which means that the money in the current policy is not enough already, and which means the current policy needs to be changed. For the negative also mentioned that the current system is good enough. However, we have a lot of stories and news to say that there is always people who cannot get money, but they are really poor, but they cannot get money due to the restriction. And if we implement UBI, we can let everyone to have money, and there won't be people who can't get money. Then, the negative also said that if we choose to cancel all the current policy now, but we have said that we will only integrate the money. We will only integrate the social welfare, which is similar to the UBI, so we won't change all of the policy right now. The negative also mentioned that they think the UBI will cause inflation. However, inflation is a normal phenomenon in a free market, which means inflation will always happen. It didn't make any question with the implementation of the UBI. Thank you.
Alright, so in our summary speech, judges, there are two things that we need to keep in mind and extend in today's debates. We will firstly like to go over the tax problem and the national debt problem impact of UBI. So firstly, raising taxes leads to less discretionary income. Those paying income tax will be left with less discretionary income to spend after income tax has been deducted. This is likely to lead to lower levels of household spending and lower levels of household savings. And then our opponent mentioned about that UBI can give unconditionally to save the middle class cost, but if the same amount of money is useful to the rich person, then there is no need to give this amount of money unconditionally. The existence of miscash is efficient for the use of resources. And then our opponent said the benefits of not have to work will free people to spend more time on potentially more rewarding activities. But life doesn't seem to work that way. Considering results from the American Time Use Survey, Bureau of Labor Statistics in 2021, employed men average 8 hours a day on work and related activities. So how did men without jobs fill up all that free time? Well, compared to employed men, they only spend 7 more minutes on socializing, 9 more minutes on exercising and recreating, and 8 more minutes on reading. The really dramatic difference in time use through is that jobless men spend 2 extra hours watching TV. The evidence is quite clear. People who don't have to work can't be counted on to fill that void with other forms of productive, engaged, goal-oriented activity. UBI is much more efficient and efficient ways to achieve the same goal as the current welfare system we have right now. Look at the impact of their argument about UBI giving support to artists, cultural workers, and others who don't receive salary or really low salary by magnitude and risk impact. The pro side say that giving money to those people will help increase the creativity and cultural diversity. First, if you look at the magnitude of the impact of it, the amount of people that will actually benefit from UBI is extremely low. And then the neglects the cost and risk. It doesn't confirm the principle of proportionality to sacrifice the whole society just for a small group of people, let alone the existing welfare system is already helping them. And thus, we'd like to extend our arguments. Unconditional basic income basically is giving money to everyone. Even through condition, its basic income can somehow help people in poverty to get out of their situation and increase their basic living of life. But because of the condition of the madness delivered to everyone, so that means that the people who is already productive to society can be even more productive. So that means that everyone's productivity will increase, and overall it does not change the structure of the society, which means that the gap between poverty and approach is still there. It doesn't change anything, and that is because UBI is equity, not equality. In conclusion, UBI is unaffordable, unworkable, and unnecessary. Thank you. Can I have 1 minute per time?
time on doing what they like, not what they have to do.
No, excuse me. You say that UBI will spend more time on. I don't know.
On doing what people they want to do, but which is not their job.
No, or nothing. Because in your previous speech, you talked about that UBI can cause other innovative opportunities for public. So we're asking about that. Is it a good phenomenon for public?
Can you repeat that?
All right. So you guys mentioned about that UBI can increase the opportunity for people to pursue what they want and focus on the education. But is that really a good phenomenon?
When we say that is we emphasize on people's mental condition, which the report in Finland can also support that. The UBI can make people's mental condition more healthy.
But what's the relationship between mental health and UBI? Because if you have the mental health problem, then you should go to the clinic or go to the hospital.
Mental problem is not always related to they need to find a doctor. Sometimes it's the current.
But you're meaning that they can't pursue what they want, so they have the mental problem, is it?
These two things cannot connect like this.
Then what's the relationship between UBI and mental health?
UBI can let them have time and money to do what they like.
How do you prove that UBI can let them have the time?
UBI,
you're just giving them
Well,
money.
we're saying that, can you sure that is to fix it for them to do what they like?
Finland has been the
Finland's research has said that mental condition can get better. So if we
Okay, and how better?
they can pursue their happiness.
Okay, can.
they can make them have more a better mental condition to do work and to do what they have to do.
But have you ever considered about the behind costs that the society should afford for them? Because we want those.
But if they don't want to work in this current policy, the government still have to give money to them. So why don't we have UBI,
Yes, but
which
we
can
have-
make them healthier
Yes.
and they can work by themselves?
No, you haven't answered our question. Is that sufficient? Is that
Is that sufficient?
Is it?
Do you mean it is important or what?
Is it sufficient enough?
Is that sufficient enough to support they
But
do
we don't
and what
understand
they
what
like?
is sufficient right now here.
Enough. Sufficient means enough.
I know sufficient means enough. I don't know why you use enough here.
Yes, because you mentioned about you have the evidence to show that people have UBI can be more happiness.
Yes.
But is it for everyone? Is it a good policy for everyone? You mentioned that current policies, current
Do you
current
think your
policy
mental
welfare
condition
system.
health is important? Do you agree or not?
I agree my mental health is important. And in fact, when a time during that I have depression that I go to clinic instead of thinking about how the government should give me money. Alright, that's impractical. Impractical. Alright, thank you. Talking about the drug. Mention about the issue on the drug.
1 minute.
Talk about tax issue.
Dear judges and fellow debaters, greetings. UBI is definitely a policy that does more good than harm. Moreover, it is available to everyone and can effectively achieve the purpose of substantive equality of the country. Thus, we insist that the Taiwanese government should enact unconditional basic income. I would like to tell you a true story that is happening in Taiwan now. An 88-year-old Mrs. Chen lives near Haren Railway Station and has been wiped out for many years. She has 3 children. The eldest son has died. The second son is married but financially poor, and the eldest daughter is severely mentally disabled. Miss Dunn has always been the main caregiver of her daughter. As she got older, her health began to deteriorate, and high blood pressure, diabetes, dementia came to her one after another. In the end, she really couldn't take care of her daughter anymore. Therefore, by letting her daughter living in a situation, she becomes a real elderly person living alone. However, because the old house she lives is in her name, so she cannot apply for a low-income subsidy and only live on an elderly pension of worth only $3,000. It is an example of an elderly person living alone who lives in poverty and is not eligible for government